Hey guys, I turned this dark, unfunctional space into this bright, modern coffee bar and beverage center. This is a small space beside my dining room. It looks like a deep, dark hole. The builder just installed a standard 24 inches flimsy countertop. This countertop can bend when attempting the coffee grounds in the portafilter. The new countertop is way stronger than before. I used a 1.5 inches birch butcher block as the countertop, and with the support of the base cabinet frames, it's super solid. On top of the countertop, I built two wall cabinets with open shelves. The open shelves were made with solid birch. The base cabinets have two 50 inches deep pullout organizers and three 27 inches super deep drawers. Each pullout organizer has four Blum soft close drawer slides, two at the top and two at the bottom. The shelves are adjustable. I put a one glass shelf and a one shelf in this organizer. For the three super deep drawers, I used Blum heavy duty drawer slides, which can hold 150 pounds. For the middle and bottom drawers, I used 1/2 inch plywood as the drawer bottom so they can hold the weight of beverage or bottled water. For wall cabinets, the open shelves are mounted to the two center doors. I installed 5 Blum soft close zero protrusion hinges on each door to hold the weight of the door and the mounted shelves. Also, the zero protrusion hinges can avoid shelves to collide with the Johnson small door when the center door is opened. Inside of the wall cabinets, there are also adjustable shelves. I installed under cabinet LED lights at the bottom of the wall cabinets. The birch open shelves have 4 shelves and 3 frames. The frames were glued and screwed together. I used the birch wood plugs to cover the screws. The new countertop is over 30 inches deep, so I can easily put all my coffee equipment on it. For finishes, I painted the front surface to white, but left all other surfaces to bare wood color. I applied Rubio Monocoat Super White to those surfaces. The exposed edge of baltic birch plywood is quite cool in my view. This is a 3D model I designed in Fusion 360. All the cabinets are modern frameless style. After we hide the open shelves and doors, you can see the internal structure of the two wall cabinets. The back panel is a 1/4 inch plywood with 3 3/4 inch nailer pieces to strengthen the structure. The top nailer piece is actually a French cleat. There are adjustable shelves inside the cabinets and decorative strips below the cabinets to cover the under cabinet lights. Then there are 4 doors. The 2 center doors are not equal size. The right one is a bit wider than the left one because the center frame of the open shelf is mounted to the right door. For the base cabinets, after we hide the countertop and drawer fronts, you can see the internal structure. At the bottom, there are 2 standalone kick plate frames. On top of that are the 2 cabinet frames. There is no back panel for the base cabinets, as all space is covered by drawers or pull-out organizers. Okay, then let's start the build. First is about the wall cabinets and open shelves. Old cabinets were made with 5x5 baltic birch plywood. I used 18mm board for cabinet frame, door and drawer front. I used 12mm board for drawer side panels and most parts of the pull organizer. I used 6mm board for back panel of wall cabinet. To break down the 5x5 board, I used a circular saw and table saw to cut them into rough dimensions. For final cuts, I used table saw and miter saw and cut all the boards with the same dimension in one batch. For cutting across the grain of the surface veneer, I used blue tape to reduce the tear out. Then I used a 1/4-inch dado blade to cut the dado slots for the back panel. The slots sit 18mm from the table saw fence, thus the nailer pieces can sit flush with the back edge of the cabinet. I don't have a shell pin jig, so I used my Shapeoko Pro CNC to bore all the pinholes for the adjustable shelves. And for the adjustable shelf board themselves, I used a 1/8 inch plunge rotor bit to cut a 1/8 inch wide slot on each side of the board. Later in this video, you will see how the shelf pin works. The cabinet is assembled with wood glue and pocket hole screws. After I assemble the 4 sides and the back, I just put adjustable shelf boards to position the middle frame board and secure the middle frame board from the top and the bottom with countersink screws. These are the 2 wall cabinets with adjustable shelves. And the shelf can be pulled out like this. The plastic shelf pin are 1/8 inch thick. For all touchable surfaces, except the door front and the drawer front, I used Rubio Monocoat Super White. I think this color fits birch wood the best. Before this build, I have tested 14 different Rubio colors. You can check out the videos about the Rubio color test from here or the description below. I used 2 syringes to control the volume of part A and part B. They need to be 3:1 in volume. Using Rubio Super White on birch can reduce the yellow tone of the wood, make it more bright and more like bare wood. To install the wall cabinet, I first screwed 2 French cleat boards to studs, then just hung the 2 cabinets onto these 2 cleat boards, as the top nailer pieces of the cabinets are also French cleats. Then I secure the cabinets by screwing them together and screwing all nailer pieces to studs. The Romex for the under cabinet lights has been connected before the cabinet is installed. For cabinet doors, I used this crate jig to drill the holes for the Blum Euro-style hinges. For the open shelves, I used 5/4 rough sawn birch. I don't have a joiner, so I used the planer to clean up the top and bottom surfaces with multiple passes, and used tapering jig on table saw to cut a straight edge. Then I cut the board to 1 inch wide on table saw. These 1 inch strips will be used to make the frames of the open shelves. To clean up the saw mark, I just passed them through the planer. For joinery, I cut rabbit and dado on the miter saw. Just engaged the cutting desk lock on the miter saw, set up an auxiliary fence with a stop block, then cut it with multiple passes. For dado, I set up 2 stop blocks, one at each side of the strip. These are the parts for the 3 shelf frames. I'll use screw to strengthen the joinery of the frame. To hide those screws, wood plugs will be used, so I drilled holes for the plug before the assembly. Then after the frame was glued up, I installed the screw and wood plug. Here I'm using a small flush trim saw to cut the plug flush to the frame surface. The 4 shelf boards were cut on CNC. These boards were about 1 inch thick before the cutting. CNC cut a contour shape to fit the frame and cut a big pocket as the top surface of the shelf. Then I used a small round-over bit to round over the front edges of the shelves and also the frames. For frames, I clamped a sacrificial piece to avoid tear out, as the cutting direction is not along the wood grain. The open shelves were secured to the 2 doors from the back of the door with screws. I pre-assembled them before applying finishes to make sure everything fit well with each other. This is the result of this pre-assembly. They look great. Then I applied Rubio to all the surfaces except the front face of the doors. After Rubio cured, I used frog tape and masking film to cover the other 5 surfaces of the doors. Then I used the HVLP system to paint the front face to white. I sprayed 1 coat of primer and 2 coats of paint. The paint I used is Sherwin-Williams Emerald Urethane Trim Enamel. This paint is a bit too thick for my HVLP system. The spray quality is okay, but not optimal. There are some orange peels. Next time I will try an airless sprayer. Now let's take a look at the base cabinets. The frame of the base cabinet has nothing special, just pieces joined together with wood glue and pocket hole screws. so I will not show the building process of the cabinet frame in this video. To install the base cabinets, I first used a multi-tool to cut the existing baseboard. Then I installed two kickplate frames by leveling them and then screw them to the studs with shim. The base cabinet frames just sit on top of the kick plates. I screw the base cabinet to the studs and also to the kick plate frame. Before the installation, I have applied Rubio to the front 3 to 4 inches part of the base cabinet and have also installed Blum drawer runners to the cabinet. After the installation, I noticed the heat dissipation could be a potential issue for the one fridge, as the two sides of the fridge are quite close to the sideboard of the two base cabinets. So I used a hole saw to drill a lot of 2-inch diameter holes to improve the heat dissipation. I bought this birch butcher block countertop from the big box store. It's larger than the size I need. I used the old countertop as a template to cut the new one. As the back wall is not flat, the old countertop is already cut to fit the curvy wall. I used blue tape and CA glue to secure the template, and then used the circular saw to cut in 2 passes. The finish for the countertop is also Rubio Monocoat Super White. I applied 2 coats. If you want to know why 2 coats, please check out my color test videos, links in the description. This is the design of the 3 drawers. I used a quarter style drawer. To use Blum undermount drawer slides, the bottom panel need to have a 1/2 inch clearance under it, and the back panel need to have 2 notches and 2 holes. I used a 1/4 inch dado blade to cut the rabbets and dado slots needed for the quarter structure. This is the dry fit of the 3 drawers. To strengthen them, I used 1/2 inch plywood as the bottom panel for the middle and the lower drawers. The notches required by Blum runners were cut on my bandsaw, and after the glue up, I drilled the required 6mm holes on the back of the panel. The last step of the drawer build is to install the two locking devices. I pre-drilled holes and then hand screw them. The locking device I used has side-to-side adjustment function, so it's quite easy to fine-tune the gaps between the drawer fronts. This is the design of the two pull-out organizers. Most parts were made with 12mm plywood, while the front panel is 18mm plywood and the top panel is 6mm. The 18mm thickness of the front panel is required by the special nylon locking device of Blum. Because the organizer is tall and narrow, I used 4 drawer slides for each organizer. The front and back panel have pinholes for adjustable shelves. Since the front and back panel have several notches, rivets, slots, and pinholes, CNC is the most convenient tool to cut them. Other parts were cut on table saw and miter saw. To glue up the parts, I applied glue to the front and back panels, then just put them together one by one, made sure they were square, and applied a lot of clamps. After the glue dried, the last step was to install the narrow locking device, because the organizer is too narrow for the standard locking device. I have to choose this special locking device Blum made, specifically for narrow drawers. This locking device requires a 3/4 inch front panel. Okay, that's how I made this coffee bar and beverage center. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or suggestions, please leave a comment. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please thumb up and subscribe.